Hi everyone and welcome to today's video. As you can read from the title, I just received something in the mail today. Well, technically yesterday, but I saw it kind of late. In fact, I didn't see it in the mailbox till today. And that something is the book that my essay has been published in. So this is the right path. So writing as you would write something. First year composition and rhetoric at Xavier, produced by Xavier Writing Program Edition, 8th edition. I kind of read that slightly backwards. That's on my end. And so I wrote this essay that I wrote that has been published in this book is on page 91. And it is a personal narrative essay, which I crafted last year in the fall. This was my first essay I wrote for college. This was for my honors rhetoric writing class, which at Xavier it is English 115. And I was encouraged by my teacher to submit this essay to be published in the book so that this year's incoming first year students have a chance to read it and reflect on it, and as well as help them write their own personal narrative for this year. Mal, if it's spelled incorrectly in the title, it's supposed to be mail, as in mail you receive in your mailbox. And I will fix that at the end of the live stream. In fact, maybe I could fix it right now. Give me a few seconds and I'll see what I could do about that. That was an excellent question, by the way. Let's see. I don't know if I'll be able to fix it at this moment, but I'll make a note about it and I'll fix it at the end. So let's see. Oh. No, it's spelled correctly. So this was in the mail. When were you at? So this was in the mail, the written path. And the link for a copy of this book is the first link in the description. And before we talk about the essay that has been published in the Xavier University's book to help the next generation write their essays, I'm currently looking at the chat right now. Mali is a country in West Africa. The question was, when were you in Mali? At this moment in my life, I have not traveled to Africa. Hopefully that answers your question. If not, please answer more in the chat, and when I see it appear, I will answer them to my best potential. And once again, before we dive into the essay that I publish, as I refer to the questions in the live chat, I do not know where you're receiving this information because I have not been to that country. This is, I think you're mixing up your lettering from the title of this video. But I could be mistaken on that part as well. As I was saying, before we get into the essay, I would like to read my reflection that I wrote in June, I believe. So, like 2 months before the book was released. And in fact, I had to write this reflection while I was doing my study abroad trip in Greece. So, hold on. Oh, that's great to hear. Thank you for commenting that now and joining this live stream. I'm going to read the reflection now before we jump into the essay. When my teacher introduced the narrative essay project, I was uncertain on what to even write about, especially since it was the first major assignment of the course. Instead of selecting the first memory that came to mind, I took my teacher's advice and wrote down every idea that popped into mind during the first 2 days after the essay was announced. On the third day, I took the time to write as much information as I could about each topic on the list. The second my eyes scanned the words immigrant parents, a few memories and emotions arose, and at that moment I knew which topic I needed to write about. Selecting a topic that I felt to emotionally inclined to resulted in me alternating the format I used to craft the essay. Since I chose a topic that is extremely close to my heart, I was able to bring the passion to my paper in a way that even the readers could feel it through the paper. When I first started writing the essay, I used bullet points to organize my first draft. I did this because I did not remember everything at once. Even in one of the final drafts, I was still adding events that occurred. I noticed that when an idea came to mind, instead of thinking about how it was going to fit into the paper, I just wrote as much as I could about that idea under a bullet point. Then I moved the idea around and an excellent created an excellent flow throughout the paper. For me, I noticed that a chronological order made the most logical sense because my topic is something that takes place across the whole time frame of my life. And now I'll refer to some of the comments that appeared while I was reading that. The volume's a bit low, but can you hire it? Where can I buy the book from mall? Ow, that reminds me. Do you believe in God? I do believe in God. The way you could buy this book is clicking on the first link in the description. And now we're going to move on to the essay portion. So my essay that was published in this so when you click on the description, it would say click link to the book mentioned in the video. It'll be right under that. That will be the link. And now we are going to I'm going to read to y'all my essay that is being published in Xavier University's book that will aid the first year students to write their own personal narratives. And let's see. So the title of my essay is Polish in an American Environment. And let's dive right in. Keep in mind that there are going to be some Polish phrases in this essay, but I will translate them for you. And let's just dive in. Keep in mind, this was my first college essay. So yeah. Polish in an American environment. I have never experienced drowning, nor do I want to, but being dropped into an environment that felt familiar but had potential loss looming around at the same time felt like drowning. Oliwka muszę już iść. Tato objeżdża ciebie. Which translates to, Olivia, I have to go now. Dad will pick you up. Mom hurried out the door to reach her closing appointment on time. As a jungle of unknowns smothered me. Betrayal arose into the air as I was left behind in daycare without knowledge of the language spoken there. Foreign words encircled me. My 3-year-old mind worked overtime to process one word. Hi. let alone the thousands I heard that day. Suffocation. That's what it was. The failure from my senses of hearing and speaking, the smiley paper sun would haunt me for the whole 5 hours as I sat at the tiny table waiting and waiting and waiting for my release. Jeszcze 4 godziny. Still 4 more hours. The fact that clocks were universal was my only joy as the stormy energy from the windows caused every light to be lit, generating blindness from the white walls as one looked at them too quickly. That was the only reason the sun could possibly have that smile. I never discovered why it was wearing sunglasses, but who really knows? Repeatedly looking at the clock bored me out of my mind. Well, at least I had a table, a chair, a clock, and free hands. Not many in a sane asylum could say that. At one point, the minute hand looked identical to the hour hand as it just so slightly moved to the right. Dlaczego tak powoli? Why so slow? As I stargazed into the clock, people dropped items on the table, crayons rolled towards the floor, laughter was present, the word from earlier repeated. Hi. Want to color? I stared at her as if she was an alien from another planet who spoke in strange tongues. After an emotionless staring contest, she moved on as I refocused on the clock, the black and white clock that moved as slow as molasses in January. The representation of the 5 hours sitting in an uncomfortable plastic chair. Even with the snail-like pace, lunch rolled around Szybko, quickly. Nothing like the zupa co robi moja mama, the soup that my mom makes, or the mięsko, or the meat, but the tomato meatball soup with breadsticks resulted in me demanding mama to recreate the dish later. Later, it transitioned to a family recipe book. The tiny smirk faded away as I stared at the empty bowl like Mama this morning. I'm saying that incorrectly. Hold on. I want to pronounce these words to my best potential, so give me a bit. Why is it not repeating? That's strange. Okay. Ukryć mogę iść do domu. If I escape, maybe I could walk home. Finally, I stretched out my tiny legs as I climbed out of the bumpy chair. I took steps towards the door I entered 3 hours prior and put my hand on the handle. Freedom was near. The bathroom is the other door. I stared blankly at the worker, keeping my hand on the handle, waiting for her to turn around so I could escape. She walked towards me. Freedom was ripped from my hands as I released the handle. She guided me to the door that did not lead to the outside. A sense of disappointment circulated in the atmosphere. Eventually, I would hear the words, Olivia, czasu idź do domu. Olivia, time to go home. I rotated to see Tata, which translates to Dad, standing in his work clothes as the clay and sand scattered around as a huge smile covered my 3-year-old face. The transition from daycare to school, it frustrated me, with Tata alternating to broken English around my brother and me, and not just strangers. Mama, though, fought to keep Polish alive in our lives. At some point during elementary school, that mindset faded as assignments piled on the desk. Burden is the definition of homework when both parents are from another country. It was an additional item to the unwanted list of how to even do it. How to do
Jeśli.
how to even do it. They say math is universal, yet not as universal as clocks. When I attempted to explain that one of the tactics was for an elementary problem, confusion automatically surfaced on Tata's face as he processed the new method. We filled out papers and papers and papers on what we understood the technique was. Although the grade on the paper projected as if I turned in a blank sheet with answers only, no work. At some point, we shifted to the version Tata learned 30 years prior. The determination leading up to the test to guarantee that I could step by step teach my 2-year-old brother as if it was not going to change in 3 years' time when he will be doing it, as he scribbled a crayon across the first trial of work. Math, the only subject that my parents could honestly help me with, the only one that did not require me to educate them on grammar, history, and science. With math, they at least had a basic understanding of it. That was probably why I preferred mathematics over most classes for so long. As for literature, pushing tasks to the last moment was key. I did not enjoy it when I would read with Mama and she would have the computer next to her, ensuring I would pronounce every word correctly. It irritated me, guided me to place reading and anything to do with it at the bottom of the to do list. Nightmares equally Nightmares equaled family gatherings, swarmed with relatives, bombarding me with the typical questions of how are you and how was school, just in another language. The language that was washed out of me while a new one filled me to the brim, leaving a sprinkle of the old one. The first was now the first has now become foreign. My brain was finally able to get a grasp of the communication that controlled my education, but throughout family events, it needed it to dig and dig and dig for the files titled Polish. My brain sent words to my mouth, but the dusty files resurfaced but the dusty files resulted in me butchering 5 words I could recall from my parents' conversation on the car ride to the event. Czasu, dobrze, daleko, ludzi I czas. Time, good, far, people, and high. Opposition marked my soul, resulting in family reunions being equivalent to a scar of embarrassment. The reminder of suffocation drilled into the depths of my heart, the reminder that I could not win. I simply could not just choose one. I had to know both to survive my world. Even with the knowledge of the needs of both, I kept thinking it was pointless. I only needed Polish to speak to older relatives that lived hours away by car or plane. Plus, I quit going to polskie szkoły, Polish school, in the second grade because Mama despised their teaching strategies. A stressed face is not one a mom would want to see every time she picked up her kid. In addition, there was no enjoyment in keeping track of two schools in two different languages. Polish just seemed to be featureless. With a dramatic shift in mi- with a dramatic shift in the middle of high school, Mama strictly spoke in Polish while I spent hours completing online classes, constantly immersed in Polish right before class, during breaks, and after class. The only pause from it was to translate a phrase or to translate a word or a phrase, even with the annoyance of calculating phrases like masz dużo zadania do robić? Do you have a lot of homework to do? I allowed myself to be submerged by the language due to the realization that Polish is in my blood. Nic ja, nic ma ukryć. There is no escape. This realization struck me as guilt filled me as I was unable to communicate with my grandparents during our trip to Poland. I relied strictly on my parents, something I from did not want for the future. After a few years of speaking one language at home and one to the world, I was walking to the dining hall with people and suddenly Mama called. I alternated to Polish, utilizing English to fill the words I could not recall at the moment. Once the call ended, I switched back to Polish as if it was nothing. So that was an essay that earned me an A in the class during my first English class in college. And now I'll quickly inform y'all that even though my essay is published in this book, I am not receiving any money from it, so it is not essentially promoting the book. I just wanted to share where some of my work has been published in case anyone needs some help in writing a personal narrative in the future, in college, or even in high school. It's slightly similar in high school. And now I'll review some of the live chat comments that were here that appeared while I was reading my personal narrative from last year. Do you have any There was a question asked, do you have any tips for college essays? So my first tip, as I wrote in my reflection, was having a bullet point list. And first thing I did actually was write down every idea that came to mind that could possibly be written for the type of essay that you have been assigned. And depending on your time frame, say you have a week to write the essay, then take the first day to bullet point as many ideas as you can. And then the second day, I would look at each of the bullet points, write as much as you could for each bullet point, and whatever bullet point you have the most information to talk about or seems the most interesting to you at that moment, take that as your topic, and whatever ideas that appear for that topic across 2 more days, just bullet point and write. Then on the fifth day, organize where each bullet point and information will go so that it makes the most sense for your essay and that everything will flow. Then for the last 2 days, I would just reread, edit, take some time away from it, relook at it, edit again, and just do that until you believe it could be submitted, and that is your final work. That was Polish, yes. Can you say something in Polish? Co mówisz? Jak no? Hold on. So mówię, jak no, Polish is not a foreign language to me. I just spent, although I did spend some years not speaking in it, and so I have to relearn it, but it's been a few years. I have an idea for an for an entrance essay for college. You need an idea. Okay. So an example I could have probably written this essay, a personal narrative, for a college entry essay. For a college entry essay, I would write down as many memories that could come to your mind, as well as lessons. Because with my experience of being in a Polish environment while also being born American while having parents from Poland, is that I had to learn how to orientate my life between both languages. And if you have and for a college essay, they just want to see a point of where, how can I correctly, most efficiently describe this? They want to see a point of where you learn something from either a mistake, a struggle, or a situation, and how did that make you a better person, made you into the individual that you are today, and how that is helping you potentially for the rest of your life. Let me know if that made sense. I'll leave the live stream a little bit on for a little bit longer. But once again, this book is the first one in the description, and no, I am not making any money, even though my essay is in this. I gave it to the school to publish so that the first-year students, the incoming first-year students, could read it and aid them in writing their personal narrative. I don't see any more chats coming in. The comment was, my friend dumped oil in the sea and I helped him clean it up. Does that make me a better person? It makes, I don't know if that's initially a better person. It does distribute that you have a kind characteristic and that you're willing to help others. But I don't know unless if it was a large situation, then maybe you could write a college essay on it. I'm not quite sure. I'm not an administrator. But I would write that on the side and keep thinking of more ideas you could write about. And as you do that, we're going to end the live stream for now. Once again, my essay was titled Polish in an American Environment, page 91. And if you did enjoy today, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you know when I go live. And we'll see y'all next time. Bye, y'all.